What a blessing to be with so many incredible lovers of liberty, so many freedom fighters. What a blessing to be with my good friend, our Colorado State Chairman, Congressman Ken Buck. I am so grateful to be with you today. You know, you can learn a lot about the history of a word by looking at its roots. If you look at the roots of the word politics, there are two parts. Poly, meaning many, and ticks, meaning blood-sucking parasites. And that is a fairly accurate description of Washington, D.C. But we're here today for something a lot more important than politics. We're here today because our country is in crisis, because we're bankrupting our kids and grandkids, because our constitutional rights are under assault, and because America has receded from leadership in the world. And yet I'm here today with a word of hope and encouragement. All across Colorado, all across the country, people are waking up, and help is on the way. This next election is going to focus on three critical issues: jobs, freedom, and security. Let's start with jobs. I want to take a minute and talk to all the single moms who are here, who are working 2 and 3 part-time jobs, who've seen your hours forcibly reduced to 28, 29 hours a week because Obamacare kicks in at 30. I want to talk to all the truck drivers, all the plumbers and electricians, all the machinists and steel workers and union members, the men and women with calluses on your hands, who've seen wages stagnating year after year after year. Cost of living keeps going up, and yet somehow your paycheck doesn't seem to keep pace. I want to talk to all the young people coming out of school. You got student loans up to your eyeballs, and you're scared, am I going to get a job? What does the future hold for me? And the media tries to tell us this is the new normal. This is as good as it gets. Well, let me tell you, that is an utter lie. You know, it's easy to talk about making America great again. You can even print that on a baseball cap. But the real question is, do you understand the principles and values that made America great in the first place? The heart of our economy isn't Washington, D.C. The heart of our economy is small businesses all across the United States of America. And if you want to see the economy take off, you lift the boot of the federal government off the back of the necks of small businesses. If I am elected president, we will repeal every word of Obamacare. We'll pass common sense health care reform that makes health insurance personal and portable and affordable and keeps government from getting in between us and our doctors. And we will pass a simple flat tax. So that every American can fill out our taxes on a postcard. And when we do that, we should abolish the IRS. We're going to rein in the EPA and the federal regulators who have descended like locusts on small businesses, killing jobs all across the United States. And we're going to stop amnesty and secure the borders and end sanctuary cities and end welfare benefits for those here illegally. And let me tell you what's going to happen when we do all of that. We're going to see millions and millions of new high-paying jobs. We're going to see jobs coming back to America, coming back from Mexico, coming back from China. We're going to see wages rising again all across America. We're going to see young people coming out of school filled with hopes, filled with dreams, with 2, 3, 4, 5 job offers. We'll see morning in America again. The second critical issue in this election is freedom. You know, just a few weeks ago, with the passing of Justice Scalia, it underscored the stakes of this election for everybody. It is not just one, but two branches of government that hang in the balance. We are one liberal justice away from a radical 5-justice left-wing majority, the likes of which this country's never seen. We are one justice away from the Supreme Court stripping religious liberty from millions of Americans across this country. We are one justice away from the Supreme Court effectively erasing the Second Amendment from the Bill of Rights. And we are one justice away from the Supreme Court making us subject to the authority of the World Court and the United Nations and international law and giving away U.S. sovereignty. Now, you know, 2 debates ago, Hugh Hewitt asked all of us a question about the Supreme Court and religious liberty. And Donald Trump turned to me and he said, "Ted, I've known a lot more politicians than you have." Well, in that, he's clearly correct. Donald Trump has been supporting liberal Democratic politicians for 40 years. I have no experience with that. But Donald continued, he said, "Ted, when it comes to religious liberty, when it comes to the Supreme Court, you got to learn to compromise. You got to learn," he said, "to cut deals with the Democrats and go along to get along." Well, let me be very, very clear to the men and women of Colorado. I will not compromise away your religious liberty. And I will not compromise away your Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. The third critical issue in this election is security. For 7 years, we've seen a president who abandons our friends and allies and shows weakness and appeasement to our enemies. Now, again, 2 debates ago, Donald Trump explained, if he were president, he would be neutral between Israel and the Palestinians. Well, let me be very, very clear. As president, I will not be neutral. America will stand unapologetically with the nation of Israel. And you know, anyone who can't tell the difference between our friends and our enemies, anyone who can't tell the difference between Israel and Islamic terrorists who want to kill us, that raises real questions about their fitness and judgment to be commander-in-chief. For 7 years, we've seen our military weakened. We've seen readiness undermined. We've seen morale of our troops plummeting. And you know what? As a nation, we've seen this before. We've had another left-wing Democratic president, Jimmy Carter, who similarly weakened and undermined our military. And then in January 1981, Ronald Reagan came into office. And what did Reagan do? He cut taxes. He lifted regulations. We saw small businesses take off, millions of new jobs. It generated trillions in new government revenue, and he used that revenue to rebuild the military, and we bankrupted the Soviet Union and won the Cold War. I intend to do the exact same thing with radical Islamic terrorism. We're going to repeal Obamacare, pass a flat tax, rein in the regulators, stop amnesty, and we're going to see millions and millions of new high-paying jobs, wages rising all across America. That's going to generate trillions in new revenue for the government, and we will use that revenue to rebuild our military so it remains the mightiest fighting force on the face of the planet. No longer will our military be governed by political correctness. We will have a commander-in-chief who stands up and says to the world, we will defeat radical Islamic terrorism. We'll have a president willing to utter the words, radical Islamic terrorism. You know, one of the saddest things we've seen over the last 7 years has been this president sending our fighting men and women into combat with rules of engagement so strict that their arms are tied behind their back, that they cannot fight, they cannot win, they cannot defeat the enemy. That is wrong. It is immoral, and mark my words, on January 2017, it will end. America has always been reluctant to use military force. We are slow to anger. We believe in peace through strength. But if and when military force is needed, we should use overwhelming force, kill the enemy, and then get the heck out. So let's talk a little politics. This has been a remarkable year. I will say this, it hadn't been boring. A year ago, as Republicans, we started with 17 candidates, an amazingly talented, diverse, young, dynamic field. What a contrast with the Democrats. You know, the Democratic field consists of a wild-eyed socialist with ideas that are dangerous for America and the world, and Bernie Sanders. And I will say this, you know, Hillary is looking to move back into 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I've kind of got different government and housing in mind for her. But in the course of this year, The primary did what the primary is supposed to do. It narrowed the field. It narrowed the field. So we now effectively have a two-person race. There are two and only two candidates who have any plausible path to winning the Republican nomination, me and Donald Trump. And I want to thank the people of Colorado because y'all have been in part of something incredible that has happened over the last 3 weeks. Let's go back to 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, the state of Utah voted, and we won Utah with 69% of the vote, a landslide. We won every single one of Utah's 40 delegates. Then 2 weeks later, the state of North Dakota voted at their convention. Of the declared delegates, we won 18. Donald Trump won 1. Now, 18-1, I'll take that ratio any day of the week. Then, just a few days later, the state of Wisconsin. All the media pundits had said we could not win Wisconsin, that Wisconsin was tailor-made for my opponent, that it was an upper Midwest state, an industrial state, a working-class state, that it was perfect for us to lose, and we were down 10 3 weeks ago. Well, on Election Day, we won a landslide with 48% of the vote. That's 3 elections in a row. But then here in Colorado, y'all have had 7 elections in the past week. In each of the 7 congressional districts, you've had a separate election. Collectively, those 7 elections have elected 21 delegates. And of those 21 delegates, together we won all 21. The credit for that goes to each and every one of you. It goes to the dedicated Republican women. It goes to the young people. It goes to the pastors. It goes to the libertarians. It goes to the small business owners. It goes to the farmers and ranchers and the passionate activists across this state who said we will stand for liberty. And because of those 7 victories, here's a story that the national media is not really reporting. In 3 weeks, in 10 elections in a row, we have beaten Donald Trump. And I very much hope later today to be able to modify that statement to say in 11 elections in a row, we have beaten Donald Trump. So I want to ask every one of you, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for your passion, your commitment to this country. As you know, we have a slate of delegates. They're wonderful people who are running for delegate. I want to thank everyone who's here running for a delegate, whether you're running for a delegate to support me or someone else. I want to thank you for your passion for our country. We have a slate of delegates. It is led by our state chairman, Ken Buck. The slate is up there behind me on the board. And it is also really, really subtly displayed on these shocking bright orange shirts everywhere you look. Look, there's no prizes for subtlety in politics. We thought about beige, but somehow it wouldn't show up quite as well in the convention hall. That's true. Okay, that was exactly why we did it for the Broncos. I apologize for momentarily forgetting. I may not be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I can at least take a hint. But let me say, it is all of us here together. If we continue to stand united, we are going to win this Republican nomination. And if we continue to stand united, we are going to win the general election. We're going to win the state of Colorado. We're going to beat Hillary Clinton, and we are going to turn this country around. It took Jimmy Carter to give us Ronald Reagan. And I am convinced the most long-lasting legacy of Barack Obama is going to be a new generation of leaders in the Republican Party who stand and fight for freedom, who stand and fight for the Constitution, and who stand and fight for the Judeo-Christian values that built this great nation.